Welcome to the Aquarian Shaman Broadcast. I'm Star Wolf, your shamanic host, and I'm here to teach you how to transform yourself and transform the world. Twice a month, we'll be exploring how to develop shamanic psycho-spiritual practices to support transformation while expanding your energy field in a way that can also support others. Each episode offers dynamic experiential guidance and teachings on how to safely enter a natural altered state of consciousness using the sacred breath. Additionally, we will discuss the importance of integration and grounding this medicine into your everyday life. Stay tuned. We're about to create authentic embodied change that will surely grow corn for the future generations. Welcome everybody. Take a nice big deep breath and perhaps you can smell the smudge. You can smell the sage. And you can even light your own if you have some. And for people that this might be a little different or a little strange or you might not understand, I always like to just say that sage is legal and that it has been changing consciousness for millennia. But it's basically mainly used for healing or for clearing the air. That's where that saying came from. Let's clear the air. And so it's moving things. You can see it symbolically. You can see it concretely, however you wish. But to move out stagnant energies from your energy field, anything you might have collected walking through the city or looking on Facebook or whatever, that you are clearing the air. And then also you are calling to you your helpers, and they ride on the invisible smoke that comes through. And we call in everything that's sacred from all directions, the east, the south, the west, the north, above, below, and last but not least, from the great within, which is our own human hearts, which connect us with Great Spirit and with everything, and especially, hopefully, to our own souls and our own path as Aquarian shamans, which is this broadcast. And today, I'm really excited to introduce yet again another amazing Aquarian shaman. And Jane and I are also colleagues. But first, I really just want to let you know a little bit about what her bio says, and then we'll come back and we'll explore Jane a little bit more and what she's up to all the way across the world from here where I am, and she's in Bali, beautiful Bali. Jane is deeply committed to helping others rediscover their inner guide and healer with a grounded, embodied, and trauma-informed approach to spiritual practices, which, by the way, is extremely important if you're going to do shamanic work and breath work with other people. Approach to spiritual practices. She creates safe spaces for deep discovery and transformation. She's a core staff member of Venus Rising, which is my organization, and she is rocketing in that. She serves as a trainer, an apprentice supervisor, a mentor, and is the director of admissions for Venus Rising University. Jane also runs in her spare time a global satellite of Venus Rising. Talk about overachiever here. I'm fortunate to have you. I'll say that. Jane is a shamanic breathwork master practitioner and an ordained shamanic minister through Venus Rising. She is accredited through both the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance and International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. Just want to say a caveat here. See lots of people out there doing breathwork these days. And so it's, and it can sound like, oh, okay. But for me, if I'm looking for a breathwork facilitator who's going to take me into powerful, altered states and into my unconscious, this is the kind of bio I want to read. Okay. She holds advanced degrees in education, psychology, and a doctorate in shamanic psychospiritual studies through Venus Risings University. Jane is a certified advanced trauma specialist. It's called TRTP. She is a shamanic astrologer, master level Reiki practitioner, advanced theta healer, and certified detox cellular regeneration practitioner. Each of these practices focus on awakening your own inner shaman and healer at all levels, on the physical, mental, and spiritual levels. Beyond her formal qualifications, Jane's work is deeply informed by the wisdom and lived experience of her own transformative journey. I'm going to read that last paragraph again, because for me, even though there's all those wonderful credentials that I highly respect and just admire, and would look for myself perhaps, but this last paragraph is the one that would make me walk through her door. Beyond her formal qualifications, Jane's work is deeply informed by the wisdom and lived experience of her own transformative journey. Welcome, Jane, and thank you for being here today. And I like to begin, Jane, in these interviews, like, how did you get here, sort of thing, and I had some wonderful people on of all different ages and different, some people who walked a Native American path for like Tom Blue Wolf, like 60, he's like in his 80s, so like 60 years, things like that. And people who are, committed to the Magdalene path, or so it's not just Native American or indigenous peoples. In the world of the Aquarian shaman, we're looking at all the what I call valid ancient paths of lineages of consciousness that are all coming together at this time on the planet when we probably need it the most. If we look out and see what's going on, we probably do. The prophecies are being fulfilled in every level, whether it's in Egypt or in Guatemala or Peru or wherever it is, or here in the Americas, all over the sky. It's written in the sky right now, and you know about that. Mm-hmm. So this is our time. If we're going to wake up, if that's going to happen, if it's time for us to wake up, remember who we are, that we are the children and hopefully adults of great mystery, and that it's our turn to evolve into that next level of consciousness where we're awakened and we understand that it's up to us. Spirit will help us, great mystery will help us, animals, plants, all kinds of things. But ultimately, it's time for everyone to wake up their own Aquarian shaman and walk the spiral path of transformation. So with that, what I'd really, if you would just tell us a little bit, your story, like where you're from, how did you get interested in all of this? What were the markers along the way that kept saying, no, this way, Jane? And whether that came from the light, like, education, reading, exciting, inspired, or whether it came from the dark of pain and suffering, because the light, the dark, no difference, when we're paying attention, will both lead us to ourselves. So I'll turn this over to you at this moment, and I'll be here just excited to hear what you're going to share with us.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, for having me. But there's something neat about having that reflected back and read to you, and to hear it from you. So thank you for that. What a big question. How did I get here? I love what you were sharing at the very end there about it's time to wake up. And for me, one thing that I wanted to kind of share with everyone is it doesn't have to happen early in life. I came to this work and to this consciousness relatively later, in my late 30s. And so many people come through my classes, my breath works, that are a lot younger these days, which is beautiful to see. But I really carry this, it's not too late. No matter where you are in life, it's not too late to sort of shift your whole perspective. And so many things happen to towards that. I grew up, I think you always kind of have to look back, and a lot of this is reflection, having done a lot of inner work to understand what I understand now, of course, and didn't necessarily see it this way at the time. But I really reflect back on the fact that I grew up in a privileged life. We always had enough. I didn't come from a place of extreme poverty or abuse or broken homes. I came from what looks on paper to be the sort of standard American lifestyle. Two parents together, always had enough, went to decent schools, never didn't have dinner on the table. And there was this sort of, let's say, value in my family that was embedded in me from before I can even remember, which was that comes with responsibility. That comes with responsibility to give more than you take in life, to take care of others. And that value carried with me for so long that I started to sort of learn at a very young age, with the best of intentions, to give everything, to sacrifice myself, that I wasn't worthy. And I embedded these feelings in myself of, who am I to have any pain, have any suffering, to need anything? I have it great. So I learned to kind of like give everything and sacrifice myself and silently sort of drown in resentment as a result. And that led to, sort of many years later, an adult who just was constantly driving and driving and driving and never felt that she was enough. I was never enough. And that led me to just give and give and give. And there's a lot in there, and eventually have a big burnout journey and come to a point where I had, adrenal fatigue, was diagnosed with some ongoing chronic conditions, some thyroid conditions, and eventually still didn't slow down. I didn't understand spirit at the time, Sarwolf. I didn't understand synchronicities. I didn't
Just has to
understand
get louder.
Oh, and they were screaming, I could tell you a funny story about the snails that were screaming at me, and I was just like, I don't have time for you, go away. And it's like so ironic looking back. But it led to a point where I had a major accident, and I fell down my stairs in the middle of the night, head first, these steep stairs in my home. And that was a turning point, because I was incredibly lucky, looking back, not to have broken my neck or have died. And I really believe that was Spirit's final, now or never, Jane. Like, you need to change and listen to what we've been showing you and make some changes in your life. And it was over the next sort of 6 months, where I was bedridden for a lot of that I started unfolding my life and, kind of quit everything to restart. And I went on this walkabout, and I started traveling, and I started just listening. And I don't know even now how I knew how to do that. It was just intuition and inner wisdom that had me following one step to the next, until I ended up in Bali, and until I ended up on a breathwork floor, and eventually on a shamanic breathwork floor, which I was like, this blew me open from the very first session that I had with Levi Banner, one of our colleagues and friends in Bali. And that was the beginning of starting to understand all the things I didn't understand, starting to understand how I was sort of wearing my martyrdom like a badge of honor. And it took years to understand it was actually survival, and to unpack everything from there. And that I was just this little girl that felt forgotten, turned into adult trying to earn love, and built a woman whose reputation was on competence, and I can do, and I can support, and I can take care, and you need me, so you have to love me. And that led to so many deep health conditions, and so many, I just wasn't happy. I was drowning in resentment and depression and unfulfillment. And of course, that doesn't lead to the kind of love that lasts and sustains and all the things. So I guess one of the core messages that I like to share to people is, all of your experiences are valid. Trauma isn't always a big capital T, what the sort of world and psychology recognizes as traumatic events. It's everything that our nervous system doesn't know how to handle builds up into coping mechanisms and survival mechanisms. And I would not, I mean, my life looked so different. I was a high functioning, CEO of international nonprofits and wearing suits at the UN. And now I'm sort of, in my yoga clothes, holding space, sobbing on the floor with people and just helping them to move through their own pain. And I couldn't be happier.
Pulling out the garbage bags for people to.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
a little bit of how I ended up here. But it was really I was one of those people that had to hit bottom quite literally. I was too stubborn to see it any other way. Spirit had to be like, okay, pay attention now. Yeah.
And yet, I think that, while I would never ever wish that kind of experience on anyone, and in my own world, you've heard my story, but at 29, I, was running the world, or so I thought I was at the hospital and the clinic and the this and the therapist and married and had the perfect family, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I was drinking myself into oblivion every night when everybody went to bed. And it's, closet alcoholic. I wasn't out at the bars. I was in the bathroom with a bottle. It's pretty pathetic, but it's just true. And then I would go to work the next day, and help everybody heal, figure everything out, whatever. And, we all at some place, regardless of what our story is, I believe, that it comes to everybody, I believe, in their life. That at some point we come to a place where we have to face our shadow and we have to face the influences from our own family of origin. And it doesn't mean our parents were bad or they could have been horrible or they could have been wonderful. But, from what I can see in the world, human beings aren't the most evolved yet. It seems like kangaroos and horses and dogs and cats and trees and plants are pretty evolved. But, to their credit, they were around a few million years before humans were. So they're a little bit older. But human beings seem to be, we say child of God, sometimes kind of bratty child of God, are not that developed. But I do believe that at this time on our planet, on this earth, that we're being invited. It's kind of like when your parents say, here's the keys to the car. Now drive carefully. And then they say, oh my God, I just gave my kids the keys to the car. They're 16. What am I thinking? I kind of feel like that God, Goddess, whatever you all believe in out there, has handed us the keys and said, I'm tired. There's about, 8 billion of you on the planet now. And it's time for at least 1 billion of you to wake up and help the other 7 billion wake up. And if we don't answer that call, if we don't say, take me, yes, I'm willing, then sometimes we have to go headlong into some other experience that gets our attention. When I've heard you tell your story before, but never before until today did I really picture you. I could see it like you were a baby in a birth canal and that you went down headway into a second birth. And this one was, by golly, definitely a second birth that was going to change your life as much as coming to this earth did. Yeah. So radically, you were like in the birth canal and just went whoosh, and you went through there. And you had to learn to walk again, to think again, to talk again, right?
Yeah, quite literally. Yeah. I had quite
Right.
a severe traumatic brain injury and that recovery process, especially with the brain and the cognitive function and the speaking and the receiving information and it was I love how you just put that. It was definitely a rebirth and I hadn't actually thought of it that way either coming down the
Me
stairs.
either.
In all honesty, that's the part I don't remember. I still haven't had my memory back of the actual fall. I remember the first thing I remember was waking up on the floor in a pool of blood and, tried to piece together some of the pieces since then. But I really love what you've just shared there about actually coming out through the birth canal. Yeah.
And
And the
when you
stairs,
come out,
it's actually quite narrow, like the
I
stairs.
know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard this story before, but it hit me tonight, and it was like, oh, and then, saying there's blood. Well, when you're born, there's blood and there's water and there's, and like you literally took the rebirth, become a shaman, took that very literal. I'm not advertising for people to do that, but frequently that's it, Jane. That frequently I hear these stories all the time. People don't necessarily walk onto the breathwork path or the shamanic path until something radically shakes them up
Yeah.
and they see the truth of something somehow and they go, there's a whole lot more to this world than just getting up and doing what, nothing wrong with this, but, to just being a person and going to work doing this and whatever. And it feels to me that what the universe asks of us is to become who it is that we became here to be. And then
Absolutely.
until that happens, we're not really happy or satisfied, and we're substituting a lot of things for love and sacred purpose that aren't authentically why we're here. I really am a person who believes in predestination about, well, if you plant a rose bud or a daffodil, that's what it's going to be. You
Right.
plant an oak tree, it's going to be an oak or
Yeah.
redwood or willow.
Yeah.
That we are planted here, and there's a certain amount of what we're going to bring forth is there when we come in.
Yeah.
And then depending on the environment, that will enhance it and affect it. And even whether it gets enough sun or water or those kinds of things. And at some point, we bloom with who it is I believe we're supposed to be. So speaking about that, yeah, speaking about that a little bit more, and I can't get that image now of you there being born. So here you are being, quote, I have a little bit of Baptist in me, as you know, but being in that born again energy, um, it sounds like you got the message, that you got you got the memo,
Yeah.
and that from there you started doing the things that your soul was calling to you. And can you tell us a little bit more, like after the accident?
Afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the
Perfect.
memo, you know.
And I love what you're sharing there, because that's what I speak about all the time in my spaces, is that it's a remembering, so
Yes.
much of what we're doing is a remembering the truth of who we really are. And I, for the first sort of 35 years of my life, was disconnected from that. And in so many ways that when I look back are really quite stark, that I was living so much in, the sort of mainstream world of how we're indoctrinated by culture and society that life should be. And that remembering has been the greatest gift of my life, no matter how hard and how much of a death that really was. Stepping into the other side is a place that, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, because it brought me to where I am. And after the accident, my path was really sped up. I think it was like, okay, now you're ready. Let's go for it. And I just fully immersed myself in this work. I ended up, I was meant to be traveling. My naive self at the time, Starro, I thought, oh, I'll just travel for a couple months and figure out my life. Yeah, well, it takes a little bit longer than that. And a bunch of synchronicities brought me to Bali, where it's still pretty much a home base for me these days. And like I said, I discovered shamanic breathwork. And along with, I'm very privileged. Ubud has this plethora of wellness and different alternative practices, and all that. My mind was just exploded. I remember going to my very first women's circle, and I was asking people about how you actually meditate, because I'd always heard about it. That's how much of a newbie I was. And I just absorbed everything I could. I've always been somebody who loves to throw myself in. I've got a lot of Scorpio energy, got a lot of, just desire to learn, a lot of Sag in there as well. And so I just threw myself into everything, and life really unfolded for me. This is where I started understanding how to follow spirit, how to follow signs, how to just let go of some of my own perception of what it should look like. And, it wasn't overnight, it took some time, but to letting go of that control, the path unfolded for me. And I threw myself into a whole bunch of practices that really changed and saved my life, particularly shamanic breathwork. And I did ship our first level of the training, the shamanic healing initiatory process. I did that ship training twice in the first year. And that was the biggest catalyst. It really was. Once was a month-long program with Levi that we don't do it so much anymore. And once was our 2-week immersion. And then I went through skills, and it was this, along with some other things I was studying around trauma and trauma therapy, and understanding my own, there was a lot of practitioners I was working with to really look into my own inner world and what was coming
Mm.
up, everything I was discovering, and how I was operating in the world, and what the roots of that was. And it just sort of spiraled and unfolded. And I just caught the bug for supporting others, for recognizing, it was this the
Mhm.
way that I had always been told and always believed deeply in myself that we have a responsibility to, share and to support others along the way. And I was putting that in all the wrong places. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, you mean I get to just be a witness and a support for other people to do their healing? That I can hold space and help them to find themselves and remember the truth of who they are the way I am? That's cool. And it just, kept unfolding from there. And I think because I was all of a sudden remembering and I was on the right path, the opportunities just kept coming and it just opened up for me. And, as you know, I was able to go deep with the training with yourself and with Venus Rising, and to do all the levels of the training. I couldn't get enough. I wanted the master practitioner training. I wanted the apprenticeships. I wanted to just dive deeper and to study with the university, and just really threw myself into it. And now I'm so blessed. I'm based in Bali a lot of the time, where I have such an opportunity to meet so many people coming through seekers
Yes.
who are just, looking for that spark, looking for that remembrance, knowing, having that sort of inner intuition or that inner guidance that something is there for them. And then I get to help them discover what it is. And there's so many people that come through, and I've made it a passion to take this work as much as I can around the world, and to spend time in New Zealand, driving around in my beautiful little van, offering breathworks to different people, to travel with you to many of the trainings. So life has just sort of repurposed itself for me. And I really love holding space for people to move through their traumas and to remember who they are. And by trauma, I love that it's the whole spectrum of pretty much anything that has had an impact on how we show up in life.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Anything that is called, what I would call soul, S-O-U-L, soul
Mhm.
loss from the
Mhm.
shamanic language. Anything in your life, it could be attending a very rigid school,
Yeah.
it could be, a dramatic situation and traumatic thing such as you experienced.
Yeah.
We don't, one of the things that I'm very grateful for, I've worked in the addictions field for a long time, for actually 40 plus years.
Mhm.
And so often in the olden days, we would say, you had to wait till people were like they homeless, they were, had cirrhosis. Today people are more informed about addictions and can be diagnosed quickly, more quicker, if you will, quickly, and also um, not go into a place so much about shame,
Mhm.
about to understand it's a disease, right? And to come into their own healing. And they can start at a higher level of healing. And I do believe that we can do that. Sometimes, I mean, I've had some pretty, I'm not going into it right now. I've spoken about addiction, but I want to stay focused on you.
Mhm.
But sometimes people have to have the down the stairs or on the bottom of the floor in the bathroom, or whatever
Yeah.
experience. And that's a powerful, powerful shamanic initiation if we turn it around and dedicate ourselves to great mysteries planned for us. But I also believe now, and I witness it. I witnessed it even in the treatment centers that I worked in as time went by, that people came in with higher bottoms.
Mm.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
experienced them when I was in Bali and from our programs that we have now, with Venus Rising, when we're doing shamanic healing initiatory training, that we have lifted the bottom for people. We've lifted it enough so that people can feel the discomfort of this isn't right, this isn't working sooner. We can
Yeah.
lift that bottom so that they can start from a higher place. And there's still plenty of suffering that everybody's been through if they've been a human being. Just how we even get born is
Yeah.
pretty dramatic. Even if it's a beautiful water birth and everything else, just birth is not easy. Birth,
Mhm.
life, I always say there's only three things that are hard: birth, life, and death. And that, we're such shamanic creatures, and we decided to be here and do this way grandmother Twyla, my Wolf Clan grandmother, you're part of the lineage of Wolf Clan
Mhm.
teacher. It's her picture here actually on a little pamphlet I found from 1988. She's
Oh,
on the other
beautiful.
side now. Yewen Nodi, she whose
Mhm.
voice rides upon the wind. You know,
Beautiful
she said
picture.
very cute. She used to say, I wish I was going to be around and see what you're going to do, you know, what everybody's going to do. She said, but I'll be watching over you all and I will see what she said. But she said, you know, I've done what I've done and taught what I've taught. So the path is a little more cleared out for you.
Mhm.
Tag, you're it.
Yeah.
Keep on doing the same thing. And that is what you're doing, Jane. And you know, there's no coincidence that you are particularly stationed in the places that you are, where you're talking about this amazing kaleidoscope of people from all around the world, and especially young people. They're not having to wait till they're 35 or 40 or 60. And there's people coming in at that age too, but you're getting all these 20 something year olds. People say, well, they haven't had enough time to be screwed up. Wrong answer. The world is getting more intense. Things
Yeah.
are really scary for people all around the world, especially here in the ununited states. But anyway, there's plenty of trauma to go around.
Yeah.
And this is a peak time that not only human beings are being transformed, but perhaps our whole world, the planet itself, and all the prophecies that
Yeah.
have been spoken about with the
Absolutely.
climate and the creatures and all those things. So, Jane, I feel like that we're here at a very important time on the planet. It's a very humbling time, and to be doing what we do. But I don't know about you, but I can't imagine doing anything else than what we do. Can you say a
Exactly.
little bit more about your sacred purpose now and what it
Mm.
feels like for you and anything else you want to share around that?
Yeah.
And maybe some of your dreams around what you want to create.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, just reflecting on what you just shared about we're living through unprecedented times, it's, many have talked about this from many different cultures and traditions, and as a great turning for a really long time. And I think especially in the last couple of years, but particularly the last few months even, it just feels like this sped up timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes even more solidified for me when I tune in this time, because we all have to, at least I've had to sort of up my own game on my own personal practices to stay centered, to stay grounded, to alchemize a lot of what's moving through the world. And it only keeps reinforcing my purpose. The more that there's maybe a tiny part of me one day that's just like, it's too much, I don't want to do it anymore, and then I come into presence and it's like, no, you do. This is why you're here. And that purpose is, I've always struggled to put into words, because it is literally just to be a beacon for helping other people to remember, or
Mm.
help. That's why that concept of remembrance, and remembering the truth of who you are at the core before the world taught you to be different, what you came here into this world to do, to experience, to believe, that full human condition. One of the reasons that I'm so attracted to our teachings in the school is it's the full spectrum of what it means to be alive. There is no, bypassing of the shadow, of the grief, of the pain. That is so much a part of who we are. And so helping people to step into acceptance of themselves and of each other in that full spectrum, and to experience life. And
Yeah. Shadow work is such
yeah,
an important part of the work that we're doing with
yeah,
Venus Rising and shamanic breath work. We're not just, just doing breath work to improve your health or to help you to meditate or whatever, but to delve into the unconscious and the subconscious and to say, what are the programs, maybe not even just from this lifetime, but from past lifetimes,
okay.
also family of origin, multi-generational messages passed through the DNA, all those kind of things. It's like,
Yeah.
what's really up, and what's mine? What's my part? You know, what's my part? And I think about that. I remember Jacqueline Small, who you've heard me talk about many, many times,
Of course.
who was
Yeah.
my first breathwork teacher in my early 30s. And she used to say all the time, and she had studied, well, she worked with Stan Groff. They were kind of developing breath work together at that time. And Leonard Orr was the first person that ever breathed her all those years ago with rebirthing, many, many. And she's just turned 90. And so she was in
Yeah.
her 40s, I think, when she started that. But anyway, and she would just say that the timelines are coming together now. And she was talking about at that time, it was a new word, transpersonal.
Mm.
It wasn't only personal, that it was in or historical, but it was also about our future self, and that the timelines were coming together, and that the archetypal world was making itself known more and more through human consciousness,
Yeah.
and that everyone has a destiny to form,
Yeah.
and that in addition to being like a plant that's here to grow and become a certain, look a certain way or do whatever, we have that. But we also have our own, as she called it, a God spark. That we all had our own spark of consciousness that no one else had.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, we're so special. It's not about that. Absolutely. She said it's almost as if, because of whoever great mystery or great spirit or God or goddess is, has potential for every one of us to be an only child, the special child of this creator,
Yeah.
because of its multifacetedness. But that's how precious we are. And that's how special we are. And she used to look me in the eye and she used to say, and if you don't do and be who it is that you came here to be, no one else can do that but
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And I'm like, well, this or that. Or when she's like, I'm telling you, don't think that you don't have a sacred purpose. Don't think, oh, I can never do this or that or whatever. Remember, truly, there is only one of you. That's a really important thing. We look out and see 8 billion people. Oh, well, it won't matter if I'm here or not. I don't think that's true. I think that we have the capacity, each one of us, to bring something incredibly important here from our experiences, from our love, how we package our experiences and put them back out to people. And we attract certain people in a certain way. And the last piece I want to say to come back to you before I do is how important, and you've said it a couple of times now, how important it is to look into our shadow and to see what we have not expressed yet, that's still repressed. We haven't brought it forth, maybe for all kinds of reasons. Also, look at the shadows, our shadow that has been formed by our culture, people, places, and things, and how to truly do the inner work. And how are we going to do that? 50 years in therapy, how are we going to do that so that we can fully step into our sacred purpose? To me, that's the whole point of doing the work, is so we can bring the gift that our higher power put inside of us to bloom in this world. So run with it, Jane.
Absolutely. No, I mean, one of my favorite sayings out there is be yourself. Everyone else is taken, and very much what you're sharing. And I agree. And looking back, I was always being guided in this direction. I just was too stubborn to sort of see it, or I needed those experiences to be able to fully step into it. And, and so you asked sort of where I want to take this and my vision and what I'm kind of creating. And again, it is a bit of a surrendering to how it unfolds with spirit. And all I really know is I just want to keep spreading this work in the world. And I'm super blessed to be authorized by you to start taking that first level of training out as a Venus Rising satellite. And so there's nothing that fills my heart with more joy than exposing other people to it. And I hope one day, to have a base somewhere where I can have a center and people can come, and it can be a place where we can offer the trainings and other transformational experiences, and a place to build tribe and community that you can come and find acceptance. And that's also, I think, one of the things we haven't spoken so much about on this call, but in many, many conversations offline around, the wolf pack, as we call it, or the community that you find when you do this work. when you, and it doesn't matter whether you are the black sheep of your family or you never felt like you fit in, you come to these programs and you find soul family. And that healing that occurred for me as a result of that, where I could just truly be myself on all levels and be accepted. And even the darkest parts of myself, you know, you don't have to like all of it, but you'll accept it and you'll love it, and help me to see the truth of it myself. And this is what we do. And that tribe and that community is something that I want to foster. And I think we have so much separation right now in the world, and so much division and divisiveness, and it's just in the constant barrage of messages that we're getting that everyone that isn't the same is the enemy, or we don't have to, you know, we just don't agree with these people, so they're the other. And, you know, add into that the sped up pace of things like AI and lack of human connection, and replacing our human interactions with artificial ones. I want to continue being real and being human and being face to face with people as much as possible, and building that tribe. You know, I can travel around the world, and even if I haven't met them yet, if I go and connect with another Wolfie in a town, I instantly have a connection. You know, we've
Right.
gone through the
You've
same
gone through the
work,
same things, the same, yeah,
speak
same
the same language.
initiation.
Yeah. And that's what I want to see spread, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
I think that's so important. You know, you're bringing it full circle. I really love that you've put an emphasis on that, Jane, that, you know, that by coming into these circles and groups, not only, you know, beginning to see our patterns and see our shadows, and often it's not only the dark things that's in our shadow, a whole lot of it's in the shadow is our light, our
Yeah.
repressed light of who it is. Oh, you know, I can't be that. That's too much. That's too big. Somebody won't like it, or I'll get in trouble. I'll be burned at the stake like I was last time, or whatever it might be. So, you know, to bring our gifts out of that, as well as our, you know, things that we're ashamed, or, you know, that we need to face, heal, deal with, forgive, whatever, you know, that's kind of like the holy manure, you know, for the roots. But then that plant, that of who it is that we are, that we're growing into, has blossoms, blooms, leaves, flowers, fruits, vegetables, wisdom. And that fruit, you know, you think of the tree of life, you know, eating from that tree of life, it's like that wisdom says, oh, I have to share this.
Mhm.
I've never known anyone, seriously, who woke up and remembered how to heal and transform their lives, who would just leave everybody else in the dirt,
Right.
not
Yeah.
knowing what to do. There
Yeah.
is automatically, we learned that, I learned that a long time ago in 12-step programs, but it's
Mhm.
always been that way in you know, various religions or various things, is that if you get the, you know, um, the download, are you just going to sit on it,
No.
or are you going to share it? And of course,
Yeah.
it is attraction. You know, I mean, we might put our flyers out, write our books, various things, but it really is more about being who we are and attracting
Yeah.
people to us because they sense that there's something about us
Mm.
that reminds them of who they really are.
Yeah.
And that's what I see about the work that you're doing, that, you know, you're being successful with your work because you're emanating that energy, like, hey, here's my story. You're open, the light, the shadow, and, you know, you're creating community, Jane.
Thank you.
And that's so important.
Mm.
It's really hard to change and grow and be supported to make those difficult shifts without other kindred spirits. And Grandmother
For sure.
Twyla would call it the tribe or the wolf pack, like you said, or wolfies, that sort of thing. So there is a need. This is Aquarius. It's not about me, it's about we.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I love
so,
what you shared there about
yeah, go ahead.
stepping, yeah, sorry, the stepping out and being seen, because that's been a big part of my journey as well. You
Yes.
know, back to the childhood where I was hiding away for the benefit of others, actually stepping into this work and being seen and continuing to go through the levels, even, you know, getting my the doctorate that you were awarding me in Egypt in, was it it was Hathor's temple, wasn't it?
Hath-
Yeah.
I believe was it Hathor or was it Horus?
Oh,
I think it was at Horus.
I think it was at Horus. Yes.
And he's the
Um,
great hawk that flies up and where everyone can
it
see
was
him, you know. And I
absolutely.
mean, he was the one. I mean, in many ways, he's the Christ figure. In some ways, there that he's resurrected and flies up into the whole world and shines his
Yeah.
light in the world. Yeah,
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. No. And it was, we had a whole group of people. We were all deep in the Egyptian mysteries together. And then there was this moment where, I had earned it and I was proud of it. But yet I was singled out in this temple to be given this, to be seen, to be elevated, to be awarded this doctorate by you in the most, I mean, I looked around like, is this real? Like, where am I? This is amazing. How did my life bring me here? And yet, each one of those levels, becoming a master practitioner, becoming part of the team, getting the doctorate, have all required shadow work of I'm okay to be seen in this way.
yes,
I
yes.
can hold this. I can step into this. I deserve to be visible. And I not only deserve to, but I have a responsibility to be.
That I
And
like that. I like what you
yeah.
just said.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that you brought that in because it's absolutely true. As much as it's been an accelerated path, it's definitely not been without work to step into, owning it and to be visible with it.
Yeah, we didn't just award you that because we felt sorry for you. It was like, it's like, how could we not? For those who don't know Jane, she's an overachiever, and that's okay. And I'm glad you're learning to relax more and you've really, your feminine side really comes through now,
Thank
you
you.
know,
Yeah,
and,
and I dream
and, it's nice to have, I have a strong masculine as well.
it.
I very much do. I have a very strong phallic energy, and um, as thank God, or I wouldn't be here today. That's just the reality. Wouldn't have survived what like you have.
Yeah.
But it's also been so wonderful to drop into the priestess and, the goddess energy and the divine feminine to meet my masculine side, and it's actually created for me the opportunity to really have the outer masculine in my life that I want
Right.
and deserve, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so I just want to acknowledge that sacred marriage of your inner masculine and feminine. And I'm really witnessing that with you more and more. And I have a sense that that's going to be more and more as you continue to evolve your work, that kind of sacred union work is more of your work,
Yeah.
helping people to find that deep interconnection to their own higher power or great mystery and their feminine and their masculine, but also walking that in the world.
Yeah.
The artificial roles that have been placed on both men and women frequently keep them apart. And even when they are together, it keeps them in their corners.
Right.
When you have more of a sacred marriage within yourself, some days you're the guy, some days you're the gal. And
Exactly.
men who really are integrated can do that too,
Yeah.
assuming that it's a, heterosexual. But even if it's not heterosexual relationship, there's still that yin yang or that feminine masculine in all of us
Yeah.
that's creating that energies.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you've been personally one of the biggest proponents of helping me to embrace that inner feminine and to allow that and encourage that and call me out when I'm, and to really help me find that deeper connection with that part of myself, which is, a real gift. Thank you.
Yeah, I really see her here today with us.
Yeah.
I can really
Yeah.
feel your feminine side today. And I think that it's going to be so inspiring, as people witness this and can hear your journey, Jane. I think, and I go back to AA again, all those years ago, that people did all kind of things to heal and change, but it was hearing other people's stories
Mhm.
that touched them and said, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it. And
Yeah.
what is it, in these last few minutes, what is it that, quote, we can do? Perhaps like the rose or the oak, or the bunny rabbit or everything, the river, to become who it is that we really are. And people say to me, well, what is an Aquarian shaman? I'm like, it's who you really are. Well, I'm not a shaman. I'm not even an Aquarian. I'm like, I'm talking about an archetype. I'm
Right.
talking about that there's an evolution from the ancient shamanism to modern day consciousness now that brings forth the best of the ancient wisdom into this time where now we're making it more feasible for people. Maybe not everyone can go be in the Amazon. Maybe I've been to Peru. You've been all around the world. I've been to Peru with people. I've been to Africa, other places, the UK at the Glastonbury and all these things. We're going to Egypt, and I love it. And I love taking people there and being there. But by far, the majority of the world is not able to do that. So to be able to bring this to the world, around the world, such as yourself at this time, I feel is one of the most important things that we can do, is to teach people how to waken up to their ability to wake up, walk the spiral path instead of the linear or circular one, to do what needs to be done on the inner realm, and to create the life they truly deserve. So do you have any last words for us? You can take a deep breath. Is there anything that you would want to say? And it doesn't matter what it is, just see what comes through.
What's actually coming through is to tell everyone out there you're not alone. That in these times that we're all going through collectively and individually, that you are not alone, and that there is a tribe out there should you want to discover it, but also you have that truth that we've been talking about inside. And even without everybody else, you have the ability to access it, to slow down and to listen, and to put aside the expectations or the programming from others and from your life, and to find what makes you truly happy. And that we're all kind of collectively on this path towards that together. So yeah, that's what's really coming through, is that you're not alone.
That's beautiful. And I'm looking at my blanket that I have on the wall here. It says one breath. You can't see it all the way around because I got my altar there, but it's one breath, one love, one tribe, one breath, one breath. We're all breathing the same breath, right? One love. We're all coming from that same source, and one tribe. Wouldn't it be wonderful, Jane, if all the tribes all around the world, from Israel, the United States, on the other side of the planet, if all the tribes everywhere could remember that we all come from the same source, we all come from one breath, one love, and we are one tribe. And maybe someday, this lifetime or another, we'll continue to do this work still, the sacred work that we do, to help birth that consciousness, to truly birth the Aquarian shaman energy on this planet. I want to thank you today for being here, for being with me, for being with me in the world doing this work. I look forward to seeing you. I think we're probably going to end up seeing each other sooner than what we think, maybe at some point.
Yeah.
But,
thank you so much for having me. And I definitely hold that prayer and that vision for the world with you.
So if there's anybody out there in Bali land, give them a hug for me. And hope to see you soon. It won't be too long, hopefully. And I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you. Thank you for carrying this lineage forward, Jane. I know that long after I'm gone, hopefully, that you will still be rocking and rolling with the breath work and everything else. Okay, dear one. Love you so much.
Love you. Thank you.
This is Star Wolf, and you've been listening to the Experiential Aquarian Shaman broadcast. Transform yourself, transform the world. Join me every second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio to awaken your inner Aquarian shaman. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to my channel and connect with me on social media at Linda Star Wolf. For more information about my offerings and trainings, visit shamanicbreathwork.org. Thank you for taking this special time to journey with me.